Dazzler's Craft. Handcraft custom trainers designed in-house. From your favourite football team or player to that band you've always loved. dazzlerscraft.co.uk.
Welcome to my Best 11 podcast. Today we are joined by an ex-Australian international, a man who I've had the honour of interviewing before, but not in this way, and it's fantastic to hear his Best 11 team. Today we are joined by a man who played central defence for a number of clubs in the UK, as well as now lives back in his homeland in Australia. Today we're joined by Chris Coyne. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, mate. Good to speak again. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Very good. And Marv, how well do you know Chris?
Well, actually, I don't know if we should remember it because he's got quite good memory. I dropped you and Bay off at the airport. I mean, not the airport, at the hotel. Remember, I picked you up and dropped you up at the hotel the day they arrived.
Mate, the Thistle Hotel. I can still remember getting dropped off there and wondering what I got myself into. No, good times, mate. It was good times, but
yeah,
it was a good group we had, mate. I have to say, very.
Was
good.
Very. I mean, I was obviously on my way out, but like like you said, it was a fantastic group.
I was wondering, Marv, when we were like catching up, I was wondering how long it would take you to talk me through that goal.
No. Listen, I'm not going to make. Listen.
Waz, and it was your wrong foot as well. It was the foot you used for getting on buses.
Listen, I was pretty angry with my right foot, to be honest. I, as a kid, I used to practice with my right foot a lot, so it came. I say it came natural, but it was quite natural for me to finish with the right foot.
But it was some finish, some goal.
You know what? And it's my favourite ever. I mean, I didn't score that many goals. It's my favourite ever goal because a lot of people. I mean, I scored a goal against Ipswich in the cup in the last minute, which a lot of people talk about. That must be no. The one against Hartlepool is my favourite goal because it's like what I say, the Luton way. There's like 7, 8, 9 of us involved passing the ball, and that's why it's my favourite goal.
No, it was a beautiful goal. There was about 8, 9 passes, and it just went bop, and then came back to you. I think Springy paid it into someone, and then you finished it off. It was
Springy paid into 40, 40 hardest.
That's right. Yeah, it was 40. Yeah, I'm surprised it came back to you.
Forty knew I'd wring his neck if he didn't come back to me. That's it. He got a quick look and went, I'll give it him. Yeah.
Fantastic. So what we're going to go through, those people who haven't listened to the podcast before, Chris is here to talk about the best 11 players he's ever set foot on a pitch with. So that's all the way through his career, including internationals, players as well. And over to you, Chris. So what formation are you picking?
Yeah, that's the tough one, isn't it? I ended up going with a 4-3-3. I asked Marv if I could go 4-5-2, but he wouldn't let me. It's not playing by the rules. So, yeah, 4-3-3 for me. Nothing fancy.
Excellent. So, 4-3-3. We'll start off over the goalkeeper. So, I know you mentioned before off air that they're a different breed.
They are.
Which different breed of a person have you got between the sticks?
Well, that's
Give us clues.
Give us some clues.
Yeah, some clues. We'll so one of them I don't think you'd know is a boy that I played with here in Australia. Ended up going to Genk and having a really good career the last couple of years. He was sort of Matt Ryan's understudy. One of them was a national goalie for a long time, which I think you'll get. And when we're speaking of weirdos, I think you might guess the third one, Marv, because he was a special character that we played with. But played with some real characters, like Bernard Lamar when he was at West Ham was, unbelievable French boy. Didn't try and train, and come Saturday he was like second to none. He was brilliant. And then Mark Schwarzer, I reckon, as well. Like, I didn't realise how good the guy was until I worked with him. He had such a distinguished career, number 2 for a while, and then blitzed it. But the one for me, maybe it was because we had so much success, but Marlon Beresford was just such a big character at Luton, and some of the saves that guy pulled off. He was, great feet, great ping, I remember one time we were playing Shipperfield Wednesday away, and he was just coming plucking things on the edge of the box and just laughing like it was hilarious. How much do you love me now? And I'm just sitting there going, mate, don't worry about that. We had 10 men as well. And it was one of them where, you know, he done that week in, week out as well, Bez. He was some goalkeeper. He really was. So I'd have to put Beresford in sticks, mate.
Yeah. So you're not allowed to have little guests or anything. You just take all the fun out of it.
The guy that played for Genk?
No, listen. You can give honourable mentions about the guy who played for Genk, and you could have the West Ham guy, but we would have got Marlon Beresford. We would have got him.
That's why he gave it. He gave it away because it would have been too easy for all the Luton fans.
That's exactly what it was, Marv.
Okay, all right.
Give me one, leave me alone. Just because I was at the kids' football last night, you're just digging me out now, aren't you?
We weren't going to mention the story, so we'll just keep going.
No, that's all right. I'll take it. My bad.
So, Marlon, you said that he was... I've heard some crazy stories about Luton goalkeepers in the past. And what made Marlon better or different, or what separates him from Schwarzer?
He was just underrated. Like he was 34, I think, when he came in, and it was like, he's just coming to pick the pieces up. But he was just such a big character in the dressing room. Nothing fazed him, and what he brought, you know, Curtis Davis was coming through at the time. I was still only reasonably young as well at the time, and then Marlon just brought this calmness, and experience, and some of the saves that the guy made. He was a great shot stopper, phenomenal shot stopper, and I think looking at the game sort of holistically, I think if Marlon had played now, he probably would have been a more rounded goalkeeper than some of the boys that were playing Premier League, because he was so good with his feet. You know, he had an absolute left wand on him that he could just pick passes out, half volleys. He was just a very, very good goalkeeper. But the fact that he commanded his box and he'd come and pluck things, he was very good. And I suppose at Luton we were lucky we had a few lunatics along the line, Miles, didn't we? You would have played with Les Sealy was a good one.
Yeah.
Bless him, but I played with him. He was a bit older when I was at West Ham, and he was just an absolute lunatic for a 17-year-old to see what he was all about. But yeah, Marlon for me, I think he had better feet than Swartzy. Swartzy was an unbelievable shot stopper, good presence, great career. But for me, maybe because I played more with Marlon than Swartzy, I thought he was the best of the two for me.
Excellent. So, move on to right back, left back, wherever you prefer.
Yeah, well, right back, again, a tough one. Obviously, a young kid with an Irish background was one of my picks, a Luton boy, who went on and had quite a good career.
Yeah.
Another fella I played with up at Dundee, he was at Real Madrid and then went to Argentina and played at San Lorenzo. And unfortunately, he had to retire at about 26, 27. But he was phenomenal, absolute phenomenal player. He was a right back in the sort of ilk of Carlos Edwards. But I probably plumped. I'll let you have a guess, Marv, so you don't sulk at me anymore. But
Andrew knows it. Go on, Andrew. You know it. Go on.
Which one have you gone for? The young Irishman?
The Irish one.
The young Irishman you'll get straight away.
Yeah, Kevin Buckley.
Is that the one you've gone for? Yes.
I went with the Spaniard Javier Artero. Unbelievable player. This is early 2000s. And we actually, did you go up to Dundee that time for pre-season to Scotland?
Yes, yeah.
He'd just come in then, and like he was scary player. 2 feet, drifted past people like they weren't there. Unbelievable person as well, like an absolutely beautiful person. And he was the sort of link, because we had Italian managers at the time, because he spoke Spanish and a little bit of Italian. He was a sort of conduit between all the boys and the coaching staff. But phenomenal player. He career ended young, but he was some player. I think he was 26, 27.
To play for Real, you say he played for Real Madrid?
Yeah, and then he went to San Lorenzo, and I think he won the Copa Libertadores with them as well. So,
I was gonna guess him as well.
Yeah, of course you were.
But no, but funny enough, I had him down as a midfielder.
Yeah, well, he was.
Oh, see, there you go.
There you go, marvellous. But
he did say he's like Carlos Edwards.
Yeah, And he played in the formation he played deeper, and then he was that quick. He was an absolute flying machine. It would have been the best 100-metre sprint you'd ever seen. Me, you, Carlos Edwards, and Javier.
Would you two still be going now?
What's that, mate?
Would you two still be going now, or who would win out of you two?
Oh, I'm not sure, Marv. How your knees
going? I don't know. I'm quite sharp. I'm quite sharp.
Up on the tennis court, mate, but I'm not sure about 100 metres.
No, I know. I mean, with the Carlos Edwards and the Javier one, we wouldn't be in the lens up to about 2 seconds. We'd be on screen.
No, they were freaks, absolute freaks. But
Marv
wasn't slow. Marv wasn't slow at all.
No, I wasn't slow. No,
Marv could shift.
Yeah.
These guys were just on another planet.
So, left back. Well, you've gone for Javier Artero's right back. Who's left back?
Yeah, so there was 2 boys. One was a Luton boy that went on to have a really good career. Again, left back, left midfield. And then the other boy played with me in the national team. Played a lot of his football in Switzerland. And again, he was another attacking fullback that would go past players, cross balls in, score goals. Had a decent Champions League career as well. I think he played for 400 or 500 games in Switzerland there in the top flight, and great guy to boot as well.
Which one are you going for?
I'll go for the boy that I played with at Luton, I think.
Was he at Rushden as well?
Oh, good question.
No, it's not unders.
No, he's not unders.
No, he's gone for Mr. Manager of Walsall now.
Gone for Matthew Taylor.
Yeah.
Tails, that's true. Okay.
Yeah. Manager of Walsall at the moment, and he's just started up there, I think.
Yeah, little Jim Carrey looked like, but he just again with Matty, I like my fullbacks being really, really aggressive and positive. And Tails could play left back, left midfield. He's probably good enough to roll into the centre of park if needs be. Just the way that he could just goes past players and score goals. I think the other one was Scott Shipperfield, who was at Basel for a number of years. But Tails was, I just think the fact that he could defend and he had that pace, but his delivery and his energy was phenomenal. He was an absolute workhorse up and down that left side.
His energy was unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, it was. It's similar to. I mean, we're just speaking about the Hartlepool goal. It was that he got to that stage where the fridge used to okay, get John Louis off, push Tails up, and put me on at left back. Wasn't it? That was the one.
That was his get out of jail card. Didn't want to pay the $200. He would just stick Tails further up the pitch. But it didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like he'd be at left back and he'd still be under the pump, and you'd be looking over your shoulder, and he'd be up at the other end of the pitch.
Yeah.
And then right next to you about 2 seconds later, and you're just like, how did that happen? Not necessarily the most talented player, but his work rate, and he did.
Correct.
Don't get me wrong, but his work rate was, if every kid or every aspiring footballer gave the effort that kid had, they're all going to give themselves a chance. So it was just pure work rate and ability to count that I thought Tails sort of epitomised. For every young player, if they could bottle that up, they won't go.
I agree.
Definitely. Could he hit it as well back then? Could he wallop them? I mean, he scored 50 yards for Portsmouth, I think.
From the get-go, he could hit it. It was ridiculous. From the get-go, he was just whack, wasn't it? It was
It was even then, Marv. I think that the ability he had to hit balls on the run as well, and then it wasn't. It was the old knuckleball flying everywhere. He just had that real ability at pace to strike the ball. So he's definitely. I'm not sure. I reckon I've gone Kevin Keegan here. I reckon my team's either winning 5-0 or 5.
Fantastic. So we get to your two. Well, I say your twos. No, Marv played a bit left, bit at centre back. But we get to your two's positions. Centre backs.
All right. Well, you might get this one. He came out and played actually here with me at Perth Glory, but most of his career, I think he came out at 35.
Is he an international as well?
No, I don't think he is. No.
Oh.
played at Bolton, played at Charlton. Tough tackling defender.
Bolton and Charlton.
To name a few.
Millwall?
And it was
No, I don't think.
Oh, no, so I'm not thinking. I was thinking of, what's his name? I can't remember pronounce it. Is it Eiffel?
No.
And it was towards the end of his career at Perth?
Towards the end of his career, Marv.
Bolton and...
I didn't live in Australia then, so I can get out of this.
Famous footballing family.
Bolton. Charlton. Oh! No. Alan?
Also a Blackburn.
No.
Cool.
Andy Todd.
Andy Todd.
Oh, very famous family. Colin.
Yes, very.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a great player. Like, I didn't realise how good he was. Obviously, you hear all the Toddy stories while you're playing football and that. And then he came over about 2 weeks after I'd come back with the family to Australia. And Toddy rolled up, and I was sitting there thinking, oh, God, this hard bastard's going to walk in here. He's just going to start this, that, and the other. The most gentle character I've ever come across in football. Seriously,
really?
What a beautiful guy. Family man, just really down to earth, really humble, just looked after all the young boys like he was an absolute gentleman. And then typical footballer, he walks across that line and just white line feeds. And he was just... They didn't know what hit him at first when he was, when he came out here. But I didn't realise just how good a footballer he was. Like, he was,
right.
and it was probably easy for him. He had all that UK experience at the top level and came out here. But I've seen other players come back here and really struggle. And Toddy just breezed through it. Like, he was an absolute pleasure to play with, but also to spend time with. It was nice he'd come over and didn't have any sort of nucleus here or any family, so I got to spend a bit of time with him. And fantastic character, but there's no way I'd mess with him, mate. He was just old school tough. Like, he just,
I heard that he's tough. So how long is he still out there? How long did he stay out there for?
No, I think Toddy is he coaching with Fino now? I'm not sure, because I know he went over to Ireland with him.
Okay.
And then I think he's had a couple of gigs with Fino, and then he was working up at Blackpool. So I'm not sure if he's over in Bulgaria now, but yeah, he's gone down that path. He was doing a bit of agency work, and then the missus and the kids wanted to go back to the UK, so he went back there. But he loved it, mate. He'd rock up to training. He lived about 200 metres from the training ground here in Perth, right? It's 30 degrees every day, Marv. It's like, we're all freezing here. I've got a jumper on. There's a minimum of 10 degrees today. And it's like the middle of winter. But Toddy would rock up. He'd have a pair of flip-flops on, pair of shorts and a singlet with his wash bag under his arm. He'd just rock up to training. It's like, what, mate, what are you doing? And he goes, mate, this is beautiful. I said,
living the dream. He is living the dream.
It was the middle of winter. Everyone's driving past him on the West Coast Highway, just thinking, what's this idiot doing?
Looks like a homeless vagrant.
Oh, he was in his element, mate. He loved it, and he didn't care what anyone thought. He just loved life over here. But his professionalism, his ability. I didn't realise actually how good he was, and as a defender, 1-on-1, etc. Like, he was as good as I've seen 1-on-1. He didn't, not the biggest Marv,
right?
5'11", 6 footish, but didn't lose a header. He was just so aggressive, and his timing was phenomenal. So I enjoyed playing against, alongside Toddy. I reckon a lot more than I would have enjoyed playing against him, I reckon.
So you mentioned you went back to Australia, obviously with the family and stuff, and you settled back in Perth and things. Was that due to contracts, obviously Colchester and things like that coming up, or was it your own personal choice to draw a line in the sand? Yeah,
no, I still had a couple of years left on my contract at Colchester, but I didn't really get on with Paul Lambert at the time. He came into Colchester after Geraint Williams had left and Kit Simons. And then he was just starting his own phase of what he wanted to do. He literally went for a younger crew that he could come in and do what he wanted with. So I sort of knew the writing was on the wall. I came back from an international game and he took the armband off me without even speaking to me. Didn't even have a conversation with me, which there's no dramas with that. It's his club. He's a gaffer. You know, whatever he said goes, but I thought a conversation might have been merited. So I pretty much knew from there the writing was on the wall. You've just gone away and played a World Cup qualifier. And then that happened. But the thing for me was we were really settled in Luton, loved it there, had to leave for, you know, financial reasons with regards to the club, etc. So my eldest boy, I think, was 8 at the time, moved to Colchester. He settled in again. And I was, I don't know, 31 at the time. Thought, if we do this again, how many times do I do it to the boy? And is he going to get a good education? Does Beck stay where she is? And then I don't see the family. You know, I might see them twice a week. So for me at that time, being in the national team, I thought it was the right time to come home because it gave me a little bit more leverage as well, coming back. So it was more for, I mean, Beck and the kids would have been happy to stay. I just didn't want my kid getting pulled from pillar to post. And then my next boy, Aiden, was going into school as well. So I thought it was just the right time. And also, I always wanted the kids to grow up in Australia. You know, we're so fortunate. We live on the water. You know, the sun's shining every day. It's, you know, it is a fantastic lifestyle for the kids to grow up in as well. So in a selfish way, I wanted, you know, that for the children as well.
Yeah. And why Perth?
I grew up here.
Yep.
I grew up here. Mum, dad, brother, sister, my wife's family went to school together here. So it was a no-brainer. I was always coming back to Perth. So it's a great spot, mate. I mean, I know you guys over on the East Coast don't think as much. You think we're all a bit insulated and not well in the head. But, you know, it's good. We're so isolated. I think we're one of the most isolated cities in the world. But we've been fortunate. We've had no real COVID cases here. We've had maybe 2 weeks the whole time of lockdown. So with those negatives come positives. So that was the whole reason I wanted to come back.
And those people watching the video right now, I'm shaking my head in jealousy. So we'll move. We'll move on. So next, Andy Todd.
Next, Andy Todd. So I had 2 names down. One was a West Ham legend. I played with him when he was rehabbing through his knee. He was a lot older than me. This was a lot of reserve football. Another hard man. And another one was one that I grew up with in the youth team at West Ham. Absolute Rolls Royce of a player. Went on to have an amazing career, and I think everyone from a young age knew that he was going to be the top man, and I think he was. And he reminds me, I used to call one of the young boys that Marv coached at Luton his name, which might give you a bit of a hint, Marv.
Well, the Rolls Royce one?
Yeah.
What, Rio?
Yeah.
Rio Ferdinand.
It reminds you of when he was a kid.
Huh?
Who do you reckon it reminds you of as a kid?
Ryan? Was it Ryan Charles?
Do you remember when Kurt was coming through?
Probably Kurt Davis.
Oh, yes.
I don't know whether he tried to imitate Rio or whatever, but he had the same perm, he had the same everything going on. So, but he was phenomenal, Rio. You could, I don't know, I think I got there December 96, 95. And Rio was in that youth team, and you could just tell straight away that the guy was phenomenal. Like, he just danced past people. He'd roll up with the first team trainer, and he was like destroying people. And we're not talking, you know, they were an established Premier League type team at the time, and he was just rolling through them. He was a good player, but I mean, his turn of foot was phenomenal as well. Like, he was another one. I reckon him, Carlos, and Artero could have a race.
Yeah.
He had blister. I reckon Thierry Henry is the only person I saw sort of eat him for speed. And he was rapid, but again, good person, good character. But, you know, even from a young age, you could just tell that he was just something special.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So just touching back to you, Coyne. So, I mean, obviously, Australian. What was it? I mean, how did the opportunity come across for you to come across to the UK to try and fulfill your dream to become a professional? But was it something you've always wanted to do as you was growing up as a kid? Yeah,
absolutely, Marv. So my mum and dad are from the north of England. So I was an Aussie kid, and I classify myself as an Aussie, but grew up with English heritage, and all I knew growing up was football. So in the summer here, you play your summer sport, which for us was cricket. and then it was obviously football or soccer in the winter. But I always wanted to be an athlete or a sportsman. So it got to the point I got chosen in the Joeys, which is like the young Aussie team, and we went across to South America for the World Cup, and I was in the like state representative team. So the next step up was the national team for the cricket as well. But for me, like I just love football. Absolutely love football. So on the back of that World Cup, managed to have a decent tournament, and then I think I was back for 4 or 5 weeks. Mum and Dad made me finish my A levels or whatever the equivalent.
Yeah.
Finished my TE, so I had something to fall back on if I didn't make it, and then over to the UK from there. So I was fortunate. I was fit as a fiddle when I went over. I think we'd been in camp for about 2.5 months, so I was in good nick, having been in a professional environment at 16 before I went over there. And it was tough, to be fair, Marv, the first 3 months, I reckon, 4 months.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, well, a phone call. I remember my first phone bill came in, almost cried. It was like £600 or whatever. And it was like, well, what am I going to live on for the rest of the month? And I didn't realise that it was like £1 a minute. And I was calling my missus, I was calling mum and dad, and reverse charged calling them. And there was no emails, there was no Skype or Zoom or anything back then. So it was tough the first 3 months. And then the other thing, Marv, like being an outsider as well, like I was taking Rio's best mate spot, or I was taking someone else's spot, you know. So they're thinking like, who's this little soft Aussie kid that's just waltzed in here with his shit gear on and, you know, trying to have a go at it. So it's one of them that, you know, you didn't have any mates to start with. But then once you sort of get into the nitty gritty of football, it's funny, if you win a few tackles, win a few games, people start looking at you differently in the dressing room.
Yeah.
So the first few months were tough, but then from there, they were a great group. We had a good team as well, which always helps, you know, when you're winning week in, week out.
And this is at 16 you've come across,
16, turning 17, yeah. 16, turning 17.
And obviously you come on your own, or did you
Yeah, I came on my own. I went into an apartment with a lad called Paul Mitchell, who was a reserve player at West Ham at the time. So it was good for weight loss, mate, because we didn't eat too much. It was microwave dinners and like none of the, you know, probably in hindsight, I should have probably gone into digs. But because I'd been away for sort of 3 months, 4 months of the year before, I thought, no, I'm fine. I'll be all right. I'll be able to cope. And I suppose I did cope, but it would have been a lot easier, you know, if I'd been in with a family, a couple of the boys.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it's probably something now. If one of my boys ever done it, I'd probably advise them on that. But you know, you can only do that retrospectively as you get older, can't you?
True.
No, definitely. Definitely. So what we'll do is we're going to pause it there. And then when we come back, we'll hear from the rest of Chris's best 11, as well as Marv's 60 seconds.
Add some art to your Adidas's with Dazzler's Craft Custom Trainers. Based in Exeter, UK, our small team of designers handcraft your Adidas with your favorite designs. From your favorite football team or your favorite player to your favorite band. All our current designs are available to view on our website, dazzlerscraft.co.uk. If you prefer, you can also commission your own bespoke design and let us get creative. Just give us a few ideas and leave the rest to us. Dazzlers Craft, bringing you ideas to life. dazzlerscraft.co.uk.
Right, so we're back for part 2 of Chris Coyne's My Best 11. I'm going to fire straight over to Marv for Marv's 60 seconds. Chris, all you need to do is just say the first word or the first answer that comes into your head. We're not stitching you up here. These are all football related. We're just after a quick, short fire, whatever comes into your head. Marv, over to you.
Okay, VAR or no VAR?
No VAR.
Funniest teammate?
Kevin Nichols.
Okay. Favorite place to go on holiday?
Vietnam.
Well, okay. Favorite other sport apart from football?
Cricket.
If you could change one rule in the game, what would it be?
If I could change one rule in the game at the moment, handball.
Okay. Rangers or Celtic?
Celtic.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
I know the answer to this one. Aussie rules or cricket?
Cricket.
Favorite colour?
Blue.
Oh my gosh. Win 1-0 in a World Cup final, play only 20 minutes, or lose 4-3 but score a hat-trick?
Win 1-0, Marv. All day long. All day long, mate. Clean sheet.
Fantastic. One more, Marv.
One more? Okay. I'm trying to find one more for him. Best ground you played at?
Celtic Park. Just for the atmosphere. Probably not the best stadium. Yokohama in Japan was phenomenal, but Celtic Park just for the noise.
And of course, Ange is over there right now, doing the Aussies proud.
Doing well by the look of it. So I've been keeping a closer eye on it now that he's there. So I reckon he'll do really well.
So yourself, is that the path you want to go down? Obviously, I'm not necessarily saying Celtic, but is that where you see yourself going in terms of management?
I hope so. I'm on a little journey now. I've just gone into a role at Perth Glory, which is the professional club here in Australia. So I think I've done my apprenticeship with an amateur type NPL side here in Perth. So I always see coaching as you've got to learn your trade. I know I'm a better coach now than I was 7-8 years ago when I started the journey. So if it does take me down that path, then I'll keep learning and trying hard to get better. But I do love the game. I'm really enjoying. I was working with adults and men before, and I've really enjoyed going back down into that sort of youth academy type stuff now, where the kids, they're so they're good players, but they're just so eager to learn, and the bits of information you give them, and when you can see them take it out onto the pitch, I do get a lot more satisfaction out of it than a grown man, because you assume that the grown man should know, or you expect that off the older players. Where when you see it in the kids and they start implementing what you're working on, it's quite satisfying as well. And I come home and it's driving in the car and it's like one of them little fist pump moments where you go, "Oh, that was superb today." So we'll see where it takes us. I'm really enjoying it. Early starts. We start at 6 o'clock every morning. Training starts at 7, and it's good fun. So Richard Garcia, Marv, do you remember Richie from Colchester?
Yeah.
So
the
Richie's gaffer now at Perth Glory. So I grew up with Richie, and then Terry McFlynn that used to be at QPR. He's the head of football ops, and Steve McGarry, who was at St Mirren and whatnot, and a boy called Ruben Zadkovic, who I'm working with really closely. He's very, very good at his job. He's worked with Ange, and he's worked with Graham Arnold, the national coach, as well. So he's brought some really, really fresh ideas in as well. So no, it's good fun. And the fact I've played with these boys and, we've been in the trenches together, it always helps, because you've got that trust, and where each other's coming from. Even when you're having a bad day, they know where you're at as an individual, not just from a football perspective.
Yeah. What's your dream job, Australia or England national coach?
I reckon England. I reckon you can't. How can you, after watching the Euros, how could you go past that? You saw the crowd starting to build up, and I was getting up with the kids and watching it, and it was just like, wow, how good is this?
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm an Aussie, I'm a proud Aussie, and but I'm also a realist. If it was the Australian cricket team or the English cricket team, I'd have to obviously go for Australia and coach that. But having watched that just recently and seeing what that young England group's doing, I don't reckon they're too far off from being.
No.
And
with your attacking lineups you're picking, the amount of attacking players England have got, you're going to have Jadon Sancho at right back, and everybody going in.
Yeah, Maguire, you're on the bench, mate. We don't need stoppers. I'll just have Walker. Just have one defender. This man in the world just flying around.
Great. So, get back to your team. 4-3-3. Wherever you like. Are you playing a holding person and then two?
Yeah, I'm going to play two holders. So that's my only. I've got 4 defenders, the 2 centre backs and the 2 sixers. They'll prop it up for me. But one of them, you might know Marv. He was at Dundee with me. This would have been 2001, and then he went from there.
Did he play at Sunderland?
No, but his namesake did. He went to Rangers and Cardiff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You got him, Marv?
And he's
I'm
now
going
living in
to
Australia.
guess
Go on.
Gavin Ray.
Correct.
Yes.
Did he play? I thought he played Sunderland as well. That's what I would have guessed.
No,
that.
Alex did.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex did. That's right.
Great,
He's right.
great
You're right,
stuff,
actually.
yeah. So, Gav was only
Well done,
about-
Andrew. Well done, Andrew.
Not bad from you. I reckon I might have mentioned him before last time when we spoke. I reckon that's where you had
Oh, I see now.
Don't give him any of this. I'm getting
I
smashed.
see.
All my mates are having a right old go at how much I'm getting smashed by you, Marv. So this is finally.
Nailed it, buddy. But yeah, no, he was box to box, could tackle, could score goals, read the game really well. He was one of them as well. If he ever made a mistake, even at centre back, he was always up there picking up the pieces, and he'd be at the other end trying to slot one in the next minute. And great guy. Again, really good leader, strong character, good person. So, underrated, I think, because he worked so hard and a lot of his work was done for the benefit of the team. He didn't get the kudos that he deserved, but he was a really, really good footballer. Never gave the ball away. Always tried to play forward, be positive, hard. He was a tough boy as well. He wouldn't let anyone take an inch off him. So I just think if I'm going to be all out attack, I need someone in there that's going to kick a few people along the way.
Very true, very true. So who would you, I know you said that he did a lot of the kind of dirty work, I suppose, and the grunt work. That's changing in the modern era. I mean, the two names that are being thrown around for Ballon d'Or and things like that is people like Kante and Jorginho. I know maybe Jorginho's a little bit different, but do you think that's changing in football, that people are actually appreciating, and the same for you, Marv, as well? Do you think people are appreciating different positions and they have a job to do, and you know what? They're needed.
Go on, Marv.
100%. 100%. I mean, you mentioned one, like Kante's been doing it for years. I mean, at Chelsea, and you look at the size of him, and it's only now where the pundits are looking at him and scrutinizing his game and seeing what he brings to the value of Chelsea's actual game itself in moving forward to actually see out and win a game.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I know Liverpool had their issues last year, but you look at what happened when you take Van Dijk out, and his name was mentioned Ballon d'Or wise as well. You look at, Dutch teams when De Jong was breaking things up and getting around the park. So I think Makelele at Chelsea, when they were being successful, they were under recognised Desai. So they've always been there. It's just now that because teams are probably set up better defensively, and the structure of the teams built around the defence, they're now getting more recognition because teams don't want to have those transition moments or turn balls over or whatever. So that defensive record, is super important. So I think, I don't know, I'm not a stats guy, but I reckon if you look at all the teams that win leagues, they've probably got the best defensive record.
Yeah.
So,
which is weird, because that's what I was going to ask you is, do you think that these players are coming more to the forefront? Because like you guys were obviously central defenders. Do you think central defenders aren't doing what traditionally they did? So therefore these players are having to do a lot more work than they used to. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not, central defenders have to play the ball out. They have to, it's all about so many different things now than just tackling, I'm not saying that's all it was, but do you understand my question?
Yeah, I mean, but I think just quickly, just going to what Coyne just said there, if you look at Van Dijk, he can head, he can pass, he can compete, and you had him, and you had the Liverpool back four Arnold and Robinson. They got the most assists going forward. But again, I think if you looked at the stats when Liverpool won the league, they probably had the best defensively. I'm guessing. I don't know.
They wouldn't even have been far off. And then you go back to Keegan back in the day, Marv, what was that, 96 or 97 or whatever? And it was 5-6, 6-5, 6-4, and they got to 3 games out. And if you keep shooting goals like that, you're not going to be successful. But the style of football they played was pleasing on the eye. Imagine if they had a Makelele or someone in there in the centre of the park. It's really important. But I think also the game's changed as well, because you watch football now. I know it was quick back when we were playing, Marv, but God, it's quick now.
Yeah.
You've only got to look. They're doing 15 Ks a game, 14 Ks a game at high speed, and And the game's evolved, so you need that sort of wrecking ball that can play as well in the middle of the park. But
yeah, who's your next wrecking ball?
So again, I went with one that you wouldn't know anyway, but I played with him with the national side all the way up.
Hold on. Don't underestimate me. I've been going good, so just give us some little clues. Like, okay.
Yeah, but I changed.
What club did he play at? What club was he at then? Even though
he hasn't picked him.
I haven't picked him yet though, Marv, but you can have a go if you want. He was at Parma, and then he went to Blackburn. And he's an agent nowadays with Frank Trimbley.
What now? No, he was at Parma.
Yeah.
Was he at another English club?
I think he was at Empoli before that as well.
Where?
Empoli.
Oh, it's one or two players.
I'm trying to think.
I thought one of them was a centre back.
It's not Ruben?
No.
I don't think it's because I thought Brett Emerton played in Holland.
As I was saying, he was at Blackburn.
He was at Blackburn. Is it Brett Emerton?
I was at Blackburn. No, I had Vinny Grella initially.
Vince Grella. That was I was going to say. Is it? Yeah.
So Emo was at PSV Eindhoven, I think. And went from PSV to Blackburn and done really well. But
where was Bresciano? Because Bresciano also was around, but he was more a centre back, wasn't he?
No, Bresh was a midfielder as well. He probably played a little bit higher up the pitch until he got a bit older. He was probably more of a sort of number 10 type player.
Because he was around Italy for years, wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, mate, he left here when he was about 21, 22. And then I think he was over there for 12, 14 years. He had a really good career over there. But no, I ended up going with an ex-teammate of ours, Marv, who, for me, we had a good group, and for me, epitomised what the club was about. He drove everyone on. He set standards. And
crazy,
nuts, off his head. But I don't think people realised how good he was at football.
No, I agree.
He was an unbelievable footballer. So injuries aside, I reckon he would have played most of his career if he'd not been fighting with managers or teammates or ladies. I reckon he would have played his career his whole career in the Premier League. I think he was a very, very good footballer. So
we came through Chelsea Academy, wasn't it?
Charlton.
I don't know why I meant Charlton. I said Chelsea. I don't know why.
I mean,
he's been on it.
You might know this, Marv. Wasn't he the captain, or wasn't he England's 17s or 18s captain? Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Kevin Nichols, he was some player, and people didn't realise, because Kev had this sort of persona of just being a hard man and winning tackles and whatever. He did make that Luton team tick. Yeah. He really made it tick. He set the tempo. He knew when we needed a rev. He knew when we needed a cuddle. He just dictated that whole environment at that time, and he was a big personality as well.
Massive.
Massive. Have you got what story have you got? Because we've had fireworks.
Fireworks, people's undies on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember when we got Lee Mansell's? Were you there when we got Mansell's car?
No.
We took Lee Mansell's car and we parked it in the centre circle at Kenilworth Road, and we took the tyres off and hid them around the mosque and that out the front of Kenilworth Road.
No, I wasn't. I didn't.
Oh, mate, it was like, where's Wally? Warm.
How the hell did you get a car in there?
Well, you could come through where Dickie brought all the.
That's right. Yeah.
Around.
Near the clock, there's a little.
Yeah, I didn't think you could get a car in. Yeah, I know it's in the alleyway, but I didn't think you could fit a car. Gee, that's going some.
Yeah, no, we had some good fun, mate. We had a loose dressing room. It was good fun, but there's a few stories that will always remain secret. But we got up to all sorts. Nothing was sacred. Nothing was sacred. So if the boys thought your gear was terrible, you'd come back, it'd be drew on, cut up, hacked up. Like, there was nothing. You couldn't get away with anything.
What is it? Was it Steenie? Was it Nico that put Steenie's stuff on the back of the door?
Yeah, he put his shoes, or I think it was his flip. I can't remember what it was. His shoes. He nailed them to the door.
He nailed them to the door. Yeah.
I heard, I don't know, was it, I can't remember whose podcast it was on, one of ours. They said that he was looking for weeks for them or days or something. He couldn't find them for days.
Yeah.
It was after a game. He went and he had to wear flip-flops with his suit to go home.
Good fun, though. It was all in good jest. No one ever got hurt. So,
yeah.
Mate, Nico came with one of those big yellow triangles with a big health warning on him, didn't he? He was just a menace. And he was always up to something. If he was bored, that was like the time. Like whenever he was injured or bored, like you knew shit was hitting the fan. But you know, all that stuff made for good fun. But I just don't think people realise that guy's range of passing.
Yeah,
true. Game, he never gave the ball away. He was such an intelligent footballer. But I think the biggest thing for me, Marv, is understanding of the game in terms of when to speed the tempo up, like his game management, I suppose.
Yeah.
Nico was only 24 when he came in, 23, 24. Yeah. So he was pretty young.
I think a lot of Luton fans really saw it second time he came back in that team that was minus 30. Obviously, in terms of just a personality, coming back, being still a player that could have played a couple of leagues up still, despite injuries and stuff. But you could see then was the tempo. We had a brand new team, trialists all over the place, but he was the one who was solidifying it. Even 5, 6, 7 years on from when he left the club, he came back and still was doing that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had him on, and you hear him speak. I mean, there's something which I think as a club we have so many players who have re-signed, left and re-signed and come back. It speaks volumes about how much those players respect the club. And Nico's one of those players who he's just got this affiliation with the club, the fans, and the whole persona of the club that it just gets it a little bit extra more. I think. I mean, he's been honest and said, like, you know, the second time around, his knee was shot, but still he managed to dig deep and drive forward because of it was Luton, I suppose, you know, that managed to just to give him that extra impetus to bring the club forward.
Yeah, I agree. And even when we were playing with him, Marv, I reckon he was carrying that knee then.
Yeah.
And he was so tough, like you'd never have known, like you'd go, have a look at this, and it was like the size of a house, and you're like, go and see the physio, man. And he was just like, nah, she'll be right. And a couple of more Brufen powders went down his neck and off he went. But he'd still roll out on a Saturday and just run through brick walls for his mates. And he won games himself, I think, just on the back of his drive and determination. He was a true winner. He didn't like losing at anything, did he? You and him used to have some right tussles where you were both like absolute whingy bastards, but you had to win. Had to have the last word and had to win. We used to just like you were like the odd couple, eh? Just go and get a room and fuck off somewhere.
Fantastic. So you've got Ray and Nichols basically staying there protecting. Who's going to be the rest of the players, the flamboyant? So you've got the midfielder and then the front three.
Yep. So
it's obvious, isn't it? I think this one, isn't it?
Yeah, might be. You think
right.
you left footed?
Look at Andrew's face. Andrew's, what's he on about there?
Was any number of players, I reckon.
Nah, well,
really?
There was a few. The one I went for, again, Australian boy. He was my roommate growing up through the under-17s with the national teams and that. Absolute legend of a guy. Great bloke, great career. Broke onto the stage in the Premier League at a really young age and scored some absolute bombs. But he was another one who was an absolute.
I'm not. Is he at Everton?
No.
No, they play with your favourite Premier League team.
Liverpool.
Certainly did.
Yeah, signed from Leeds.
Leeds.
Yeah.
Is he the attacking? So is he the attacking one, or is he up one of the front? Which one?
He's going to be behind the front three.
Yeah,
behind the front three.
Mate.
If he's behind the front three.
Yeah, unbelievable player.
Yeah,
unbelievable player. He again, good person, really lovely fella. But he could play football. He just had a knack of drifting past players like they weren't there. But again, he was another one that was super intelligent on the football field. could just pick a pass from nowhere. Great ability, and for a slight stature, I mean, he wasn't the biggest H, but he was super strong. You know, he looked after himself. He'd be in the gym day before a game for about an hour and a quarter, just getting his body right in the morning and just preparing and doing everything right. And he was a fantastic player. I mean, again, injuries played a bit of a part towards, you know, I suppose that Liverpool, when he went to Liverpool, probably didn't see the best of him when his body wasn't right. But phenomenal player. I mean, absolute pin-up boy for Australian football. But just such a good guy as well, you know, to spend time with him. And probably hadn't seen him for a couple of years and rock up somewhere and it's like, right, we're catching up next week, or I want you to come up to mine or whatever. He's just one of them sort of people, you know. He's just such a good guy, but phenomenal talent. Absolutely.
Yeah. Would he be as big? I mean, because I mean, I'm obviously much older than you. Would he be a big pin-up for Australian football or in soccer? Or because I had Viduka was like a big, massive, like unbelievable player who come out of there. It was just ridiculous, Coyne. Great player, fantastic player.
Yeah, well, I didn't play with Dukes. He came over. He was a bit older than me, so he came over a bit earlier. But he just kept himself to himself. I think he owns a cafe in Croatia or something at the moment, and just doesn't get involved. And I think I saw the first interview that he'd done in like 14 years the other week. So he just doesn't get involved with it. Where Harry was quite quiet, but because he had the blonde locks, looked like a bit of a surfy. He was the sort of the pin-up boy. Right. And then a bit later on, it was obviously Timmy, because he started scoring a lot of goals when he was at Everton in the World Cup. That bomb he scored against Holland in the World Cup sort of escalated his sort of standings. But Harry Kuhl for a long time was the sort of poster boy of Australian football. And he came through all the so-called pathways and all that. So he started at the New South Wales Institute of Sport. Then he sort of went through all the international stages and played at every level. So he was the sort of one, especially breaking into that Leeds team. I think he was 17 at the time, scoring bombs against Arsenal and that. So that sort of escalated his standing pretty quickly.
Oh, definitely. And you reckon that he's obviously, you put him in as a central attacking midfielder kind of play, and that may be because you're trying to fit him in your team. Where do you reckon his best position was?
I think he was best playing off someone, and you'll see in a minute why I've sort of put him up there. But he didn't look quick, but he had such a turn of pace, and he was so powerful that if he spotted an opportunity, he'd just bounce and fly, and you wouldn't catch him. And his right foot wasn't great, but he had such a good ability to manipulate the ball to just get a shot off anyway, that once he got into anywhere in and around the box, he'd see you off. But he was one of them that he could pick a pass as well. So if he was playing in behind a striker that was then linking the play, he'd slot things through, or he'd reverse things, or pick a pass. So he was
go back to your Leeds days, you're talking Viduka, Robbie Fowler.
Yeah, players like that, you know, that he could then play off and link and then give that freedom to get forward and try and score goals.
Fantastic. So front three.
Start with the number 9.
Number 9.
Big guy up top. Again, from the Luton days, it won't take you too much to work it out, but I just loved playing with him. You know, he was fantastic character, great fella, good laugh, goal scorer, and he was just good to have in your team. He was just one of them big bears that I loved playing with and enjoyed his company. And he went on, you know, started late, but went on to have a really, really good career. And I think he got what he deserved for all his hard work in the end as well, Marv.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Steve Howard, obviously talking about.
Yeah, 100%. And again, another one. The reason I chucked Howie in there, I played centre back with him, Marv, one game. And I forget what happened. I think Curtis was injured or suspended. Russell Perrott was definitely injured. The Tin Man was on the treatment table. The twig. And Newell put Stevie at centre back with me. I can't even remember who we were playing. Ended up getting man of the match. He's Cruyff turning dudes on the edge of the box. And then after the game, he's just gone, "This is fucking easy, man." Shut up, mate. Seriously. And, but mate, he was again a really gifted footballer, and I think people just thought because he was a big brute back stick and he was heading things and beating people up, but the guy could play football. And, you know, he scored goals at every level. Every level he went to, he scored goals. And, you know, he might have just been one of those late bloomers that, you know, found his niche or found himself later on when he went to Derby and Leicester and that, like he had a cracker there. But again, just a good personality, just a good person to be around in the dressing room. And you knew when shit hit the fan as well, you know, he always had your back. You know, I think that was one of the things about that dressing room. Everyone looked after each other, and didn't matter where you were going or what you were doing, you knew your mates had you. So, you know, balls going in off Stevie, he'd hold things up, he'd hold 2 or 3 off, and then you've got people flying off him, and then he'd be the first one getting in the box to try and get a goal. So, good player, underrated in my opinion. He probably no negatives to Stevie, but I reckon if he had another yard of pace, that he probably would have been, you know, League One or Championship level. I think he probably would have been at the top level most of his career.
Yeah. So when Howie left Luton, and you had that kind of start of the exodus happen, you were still there and you started to take over leadership at the club. What was that like at the time, kind of around that kind of 06 time?
Listen, it was still a good group and everyone stuck together, but you could see, and that's no disrespect to what was coming in, but then we lost Viney, we lost Howie, we lost Curtis, we lost Kev Foley.
Yeah.
You could see slowly but surely the team was starting to get dismantled. But then that's not to detract from the boys that were coming in, because they were great lads. But when you lose people like Stevie Howard, you build a team around someone like that. So then to try and replace them with someone, there's some big shoes to fill, not just on the pitch, but off it. So it was a strange time. And then even during that process, we were in admin. I'm not sure, I can't remember 100%. You might be able to remind me, but I think we went into admin again later on. I think it might have been 9 or 10 months later.
Yeah.
Once all that went on.
Yeah.
So just a really disjointed, disrupted time at the club. So I still look back at it and fond memories, because I was back 18 months ago, Marv. Honestly, what an absolute privilege to walk into that place again and see the same faces, the same people. You know, it's still exactly the same club. It's such a good place to go to. And, you know, I think that's what kept us on our toes at that time as well, because we weren't just playing for ourselves. You know, we knew all the dinner ladies, we knew everyone, they weren't getting paid either. And we knew we're all in the same boat as the people that were, you know, Dickie and everyone that was there at the time. So we stayed together like, you know, we always have. And it probably galvanized us a little bit as well, in terms of we came closer as a group. But unfortunately, when you're having to do that on the pitch and you don't have the same quality of player as you had before, and again, I say that with no disrespect to anyone that was at the club, I'm just pumping up Stevie's tyres and Curtis and boys like that, because they proved it with where they went to and what they did. So it was difficult, but I think the club, as we're seeing now, maybe needed to go through that stage to get to the point they're at now.
Yeah, means to an end. No, definitely. Definitely. So, Stevie's your number 9. Who's going to do all the legwork around?
All right. So, on the right-hand side, I've got an Argentinian International.
Yeah, I knew he was going to put him in. Look, how old was he then? Jeez.
That's your age, Marv.
Yeah, 64.
He hasn't got his pension card yet, though, mate.
No, listen, obviously he must have been, I can't imagine, he must have been really good. I mean,
mate,
I heard he was.
Yeah, scary. And he was about 35 at the time. Never missed a training session, never missed a running session, never missed a gym session. Like, the guy was an absolute freak. And then all of a sudden, you know what you like after training that, you just start messing around with balls and people start, you know, it's like circus time and that. He'd go, I'll get it from here. And you're sitting there going, no way. He's about 20 metres behind the goal, right? And he just stabs this ball and the thing goes shooting past the goal and just spins all the way back into the back of the net. And you're just like, how the hell, you know, I'll do it with my other foot. But the guy was a freak. Quick as anything I've seen on 2 feet. Great goal scorer. Again, really good person. Great person.
Yeah.
But phenomenal talent. Absolute scary player.
Of course, we're talking about, yes, go on, Marv.
Claudio Caniggia? Is that how you pronounce it? Caniggia?
Yeah.
So how did he end up at Dundee?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the Italian mafia got him up there when Benetti. Do you remember Ivano Benetti with the boy that used to be at Crystal Palace and Sampdoria? He was the manager there at the time. So I don't know whether they were using the same agent or I don't know how things work in football. I was only about 22 at the time, but he's rocked up at training. He's got these honking Louis Vuitton trousers on. He's got like a Versace top. His hair's flapping in the wind. It was minus 15 degrees, and you're like, what's this thing that's just strolled into the dressing room? And then straight away, he was just the nicest guy in the world. 2 World Cups, scored at the highest level everywhere he's gone. And he was just an absolute gentleman of a guy, great guy. He's sitting there having a coffee with him, Marv. And he goes, "Oh, 1 second." Diego's on the phone. He just trots off and then takes a phone call. And he's like, is he like taking the piss or what?
Yeah, you don't like a name drop, but when it's Maradona, you're kind of, that's fair, that's okay.
Mate, but it was so matter of fact to him because it was his best mate.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was name dropping. He was actually
that's what I mean.
I'm just leaving. Yeah. I'll just be back in a sec. So he was actually just being really polite and didn't want to leave the table without any manners. But phenomenal player, great guy. I mean, he was a weirdo. He used to go before the game. He'd be sitting there sucking on a Marlboro Red in the dressing room, like in the toilets, and then he'd go out and do about 15 Ks, and you're like, you're a freak, absolute freak. But
so was he brought up there, do you think, to help the youngsters? And is that something that he did a lot of when he was up there? And obviously you've been a kind of youngster up there as well yourself.
Yeah, listen, it wasn't really a young squad. So when Benetti went up there, it was, I forget what they called it. It was the Italian Revolution or some garbage they called it. So they got, I think it was 4 Italians in there, 3 Spaniards, 3 Argentinians. The boy Caballero, do you remember Fabian Caballero that used to be at Arsenal? They brought Fabian up there. Juan Sara was up there, another Argentinian. So they just brought all these players. That's why I'm assuming it had something to do with the agent or, the networks that they're working through, because their markets were a lot different then, weren't they, with transfer fees and all the rest of it. I think they had something called black money where it was net and not gross and all that sort of palaver. So God knows what was going on. There was the boy Kijinishvili, do you remember him? That was that went to Rangers and then Blackburn.
Oh, yes.
Kijinishvili, the defender. He was a really good player. Georgi Nemzadze was there as well, who was a Georgian captain at the time. So it was a really good time. I think we finished 3rd that year in the Scottish Premier League. Obviously, Rangers and Celtic won the league. And then that year, Kinnear went to Rangers from there at 37. But good, very good player, mate. I mean, like I said, he was quick, but he just had a real eye for goal, and he could kill you in a split second. 1 minute he was there, the next minute he was see you later time.
Yeah.
And then obviously you made the move from there to Luton. So I mean, how did that come about? When did you first hear about that?
It's funny. We played Luton in that game at Dundee, and there was a header right in the halfway line, and I was fighting for my spot at the time because he brought all these players in, and me and Howie have jumped for a header, and I've just gone through the back of him and smashed him, and he's rolled over. You know, he loved the whinge, didn't he? When you go through, like when you smashed him, you'd have an absolute moan at you. He was whinging away, and I've just gone, "Oh, shut up, you big so-and-so," or whatever, and just got up and walked off. And then it was right in front of the Luton bench, and then got a phone call a couple of days later, "Would you be interested in coming? This is what we're looking at doing." And sort of came from there. I was actually, funny story, Joe Kinnear called me, and I've just gone, "Yeah, hello." And he goes, "Oh, it's Joe Kinnear, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Joe, listen, I can't take the call at the moment. I've just got to go to court. I'll speak to you in a second." So I've hung up, called him back about half an hour later, and he's just gone, "Mate, what are what's going on?" And I just said, no, it's nothing like that. I didn't realise you needed insurance in the UK. In Australia, you insure the car, not the driver. So it's a different sort of policy. So I drove my missus' car to training because mine had no petrol and got stung for it. But I had no idea I was driving without any insurance. And so he thought I was up to all sorts. But, once I spoke to him and Mick, like I was sold, we're doing this is what we're doing. We'll be out of this division this year. We're going to then build again. We'll be out of that league within 2 years. And everyone they were signing at the time, if you remember, everyone was a similar age, weren't they? Everyone was sort of coming in at about 23, 24, 25, plus the younger boys that were coming through, like and Matty Taylor. There was a good sort of blend there. Yourself, obviously, were there. Embo was already there, wasn't he? So it was that sort of time where I think he just got a really good balance to push the team on. he was true to his word at the end of the day. Like we did do what he said we were going to do. So yeah, that was the first time I think I'd come across their radar, and it was maybe just because I'd give the big lump a good smashing on the halfway line. So, but yeah, no, it was good. I'm glad it happened, mate. Wouldn't change it for the world.
Fantastic. So, who are you going for on the left?
Well, my Luton favourite, he was only there for a short time, but he was just a phenomenal talent. And I think we saw glimpses of him at his best, but I reckon at his best, he would have blitzed any league in the world. Goal scorer, both feet, great delivery, lazy at times, but I just think a real talented player.
Did he end up playing up in Scotland for Hearts?
He did.
So you've gone for a massive luxury player.
Yeah.
That's why I had to chuck Nico in there. I told you when I told you about my midfield, I told you I needed a couple of panel beaters in there just to knock dents out of people.
That's why you picked Matty Taylor and him on the left, because that's what you loved.
I love wide attacking players, and then I've got two that are going to sit and just stop everything, and two defenders to fix the rest of it. So yeah, what's that?
Like first, I don't know what it was. Probably 2 or 3 goals were ridiculous, weren't they? I've never seen everything like it. His debut was unreal, to be fair, but then he scored 2 or 3 other goals on the back of his first goals. Were like top corners.
Yeah,
and then October.
Both feet as well. Like the one he scored, I can't remember who was against, and he's coming off his left, and then he smashed one from 40 odd with his right foot, and that thing's still whistling now, mate. That was, that's some strike. But I mean, then you had the only downfall with John Louis is the fact that you then had to go to Halifax or Torquay or somewhere on a Tuesday night. But imagine if you had him and you were going to, Sunderland, or you're going somewhere to play football. I reckon he would have razzled, mate. And I spoke to Mile Stajovski. Mile played with him he was at Lille with him in France, and he said the same thing. He said he was like by far and away one of the best players in the league, but he just done it when he fancied it. But I've only got 11. You might get the old tactics board up after 2 minutes off you come. But again, if I'm going to pay money to watch someone at Luton, I thought that he was, bang for buck. I thought he was just a ridiculous talent. And I don't know whether League Two at the time was cut out for him. He's probably rocking up just going, why am I here? What am I doing? Well, he got himself in that situation for whatever reason. But I just think based on pure talent, the guy was scary. And he created a lot of goals as well. He did. His delivery was superb. So again, really attacking, but I just think on his day he could just light the whole stadium up, and I think at times he did with some of those goals that he scored was phenomenal. And I just don't think any defender in their right mind would want to mark him on his day.
No, definitely. And you see Luton fans on social media, the questions often come up: who's the best player you've ever seen? And so many of them say Jean-Louis Valois. So many of them, just because of, like you say, that moment, he's a person who gets you off your seat.
He does, yeah, absolutely. He excites you, and you'd pay your hard-earned money to watch him, wouldn't you? Now, whether you'd want to buy him if you're a coach, that's a different story. Do you remember when the Fridge was trying to get him to do a chip to the back stick? John Louis, pomfret. Huh? You're off your head, mate. But he was good. His English was better than he let on as well.
Of course it was, 100%.
He stayed at the Arndale with me for a few weeks, and he understood what was going on. It was just when Joe Kinnear got into his ear that he wasn't too interested to listen. But it was a free spirit, wasn't he? It was a bit of
it was.
But do you know what, Marv? He bought into what we were doing as well.
Yeah.
He was one of the boys.
Well, I don't think he had too much choice, really, because he would have got roughed up if he didn't take it seriously.
But, he was always, if the boys did have the occasional night out, he was there. He always mucked in. He was a good lad. He didn't just shy away from it and whatever. But it just wasn't suited when you go into somewhere, like I said, Lincoln or Halifax or wherever we were going at that time. He just wasn't suited to that sort of football. But then when you got him back to ours, which was generally a good deck, he could get the ball down and play a bit. And I just think he was exciting, mate. I just really enjoyed watching him play.
Definitely. So that is your 11.
Not
Next
sure.
question.
I might be mid-table first year, I reckon, Marv.
What's that?
I reckon I could be mid-table this year.
In which league?
Ooh. If I got them all at their prime, go close to the Premier League, I reckon.
I reckon so as well. Everybody at the prime. Rio, Harry Kuhl. Oh. So
did you not play Cahill?
Nah.
Did you not?
Where
internationally?
I played with him.
Yeah, I would have been definitely in there. You had goals galore from him.
Yeah. Well, where would you put him though, Marv?
Yeah.
Because he's not a central midfielder. He's not a 9.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I would have maybe just gone with Kuhl on the left instead of Valois and then put him in attacking mid, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a few in there. I had obviously Lampard, Carrick, Joe Cole. I could have chucked a few, but it's one of them. Some of the boys like Stevie and Nico, when you played with them more, you appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, that's why it's your best 11, exactly.
Yeah,
and it's not necessarily like the best players, which is great. This is why I like the way you've picked it. Like, I'm not saying that the players you picked are rubbish, but sometimes it might be someone who is a great teammate who made you laugh and just made the whole experience at that club for you enjoyable.
100%. And like in Nico and Howie, for example, you could build a team around those two any day of the week because week in, week out, you're going to get a 7 or 8 out of 10, and they're going to look after everyone on that group. So that's why when I was sitting it down, that's why I had to get pen and paper, Marv. I was sitting there giving it one of them for ages. Wow, what am I picking here?
Also, now you got to think which manager, or it could be a coach, a youth team coach, or which person is going to lead this team? Do you think got the bigger the sort of character to lead this team now?
Yeah, so there was you probably won't know the guy. He was my youth coach for the national team. And because we were leading into the Youth World Cup, his name's Les Scheinflug, German guy. And as we were leading into the Youth World Cup, we obviously had massive lump camps where they'd sent you'd be away for sort of 6 to 7 weeks. And in terms of my education and where he sort of got me to, I went in as a midfielder, Marv. I thought I was like a goal scorer midfielder when I went in there, and he's just going, English, you're a stopper. Back there. I suppose it helped. We had a good team as well. We had Brett Emmett and Harry Kuhl and boys. We had a decent group that we'd spend weeks and weeks and weeks away, and he'd end up doing a back 5 with one in front against 11 men. He goes, right, if they don't score, you've got the day off tomorrow. But we'd worked that hard as a group. We knew our jobs that well that we played almost 90 minutes, Marv.
Really?
So in terms of my development, like I owe him an absolute bucket load. And even now, any pros that have played for him or anyone that sees him now, he's over in Sydney now, everyone still calls him boss. So he was a real disciplinarian in terms of learning respect and resilience and all those little things now that I think have gone by the wayside a little bit.
Right.
If you didn't walk past him and say, good morning, boss, then you were guaranteed. He wouldn't say anything, but everyone would be doing push-ups for 20 minutes when you got to training. And everyone now, 40, 50-year-old blokes, still call him boss even now when they see him. And he was a disciplinarian, but he wasn't an arse about it. Do you know what I mean? Like he wasn't. It was always from a good place. It was always about making you a better person and a better player.
Yeah.
So, he was really, big on, I think in my career anyway, I think he played a big part.
Yeah. Fantastic. So we always like to find out what you're doing right now. You mentioned it earlier on. So you're currently heading up the youth setup at Perth Glory?
No, I'm the assistant there. So Ruben Zadkovic has come in. He's only a young guy, actually. He's 34, 35, but fantastic coach. So me and him are doing like the MPL, which is the under 23s, I suppose, if you're comparing it to the UK. And then I'm doing the defensive stuff in the A-League set up as well. So I look after all the defensive type stuff there. So good fun, really enjoying it. Good group. And like I said, I'm enjoying working with the younger ones as well. You know, the older boys are good because sometimes it's only a little look of the eyes and they know exactly what they should have done. Where with the younger ones, having that time to spend with them, trying to make them better players is really good fun.
Fantastic. And what age do you work with? All the way from 12, 13?
No. It's the older ones, so they're under 20s, but some of them last week we had about 4 or 5 under 15s in there. So we're sort of at that point now where we're looking at what's for next year. So we rolled some of the young ones in there, and they're really, really applying themselves well. So again, if you're old enough, you're good enough. And we're just trying to get that next generation, and hopefully we can teach them some of that resilience and the 1%ers. But me and Rubes are having good fun along the way, so it's always important that you enjoy what you're doing.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Coyne, appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, right. And that was Chris Coyne's My Best 11.